Dr. Figuera, how are you?
I'm fine, coping with old age.
Yeah, well, what you going to do? There's a reality we have to deal with, right? So it's a reality. But, I mean, you're a person who studies crime. You've written a couple of books on this, and you've written not just about the reality of crime, but the context of crime in Trinidad and Tobago and the region. So I want to ask you if we could start with a simple question. What is your assessment of the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago today?
But what is happening with Trinidad and Tobago today is that the phenomena has entered a new stage of evolution, which was clearly manifested on the 30th of June 2020. What is happening in Trinidad and Tobago is that we have now a new order in gangland that is being managed by transnational organized crime. And that has been the reason why in 2020 we commenced this process of peace in gangland, reflected in the rapid decline in the murder toll compared to 2017, 18, and 19 when you compare 20 and 21. Remember, 2017, 18, and 19 were the three most bloody years in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, where we had literally rivers of blood flowed off of gun violence that carried our murder toll to heights never seen before. And then dramatically in 2020, we had this precipitous fall compared to these 3 years, which has continued in 2021. But more importantly, is that the fall is linked to an end of the internecine warfare in gangland. So there is this new order on the ground, an order that has been established by transnational organized crime. And what is happening, crime is now evolving in Trinidad and Tobago. So we already see this with an emphasis on crimes against property, crimes against the person, because the emphasis now is to earn. This mindless violence prohibits you maximizing the generation of illicit wealth.
All right, tell me something. Explain so that people who are watching can understand. What is it that happened in 2020 to stem the excessive violence of 2017, 18, and 19? Secondly, what do you mean by a new order of things? Explain it so people understand. And thirdly, what do you mean about the transnational presence? And finally, what do you mean by the move from murders to property and income earning by gangland players?
Now, what happened? In 2017, 18, and 19, there was the old order exercising power over illicit crime, illicit activity in Trinidad and Tobago. This was an old order that was premised on a Colombian capo business model, with its tendency to be anarchic. What we must understand is that there is a transition in business models. So the Colombian business model is now rapidly being replaced by a brand new business model, which establishes a new order of business and a new discipline and a new way of ensuring disciplined activity geared towards the maximization of illicit wealth.
Where is this order being established from?
This is a transnational order. This is an order that is present throughout the world. It is especially present in the North Atlantic because those are the major consumption points for the illicit products. So it is based on the creation of a transnational organization that welded organized crime players from across the transatlantic into a cogent, coherent, operational whole. So you have transnational criminal groups from the South, from Europe, from the United States, forming this coalition and welding themselves into a cohesive organization. So the move now is to change the very order of business, to change the business model. The business model is dramatically different from what's obtained before with the Colombian capo.
Yeah.
And we are now seeing in Trinidad and Tobago that this business model is now dominant in Trinidad and Tobago. So the anarchy that reigned in Trinidad and Tobago that came to its head in 17, 18, and 19 is now replaced. It's gone. And it's a new business model. No longer will internecine warfare be par for the course because that is simply bad for business. And this new order intends to exploit business opportunities that were not exploited before under the Colombian model. So, for example, we have a dire shortage of forex being available in this country. This organization is rich in forex because what it produces, what it traffics, and what it sells in the North Atlantic sells for US dollars and euro. So in Trinidad and Tobago, that is a leverage in which they will exploit to gain power and momentum in the economy. So every aspect of business that enables them to maximize wealth, they exploit. So what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago now as the order of business evolves the nature of extracting wealth from the people and the economy? The business sector in Trinidad and Tobago, the regulatory agencies in Trinidad and Tobago, the state agencies have to change the nature in which of how they respond to this threat. Because if you deny the existence of the threat and you continue with the same old way we go along day to day, then they're going to have a playground that they will fully exploit to their benefit.
All right, tell me something now. This is international organized crime. You are saying our gangland players are now part of this multinational and international order and playing their role. They have solved the problem of internecine strife among the gangs. And what they are doing is selling drugs. I imagine that that is a combination of transshipment and perhaps some production. And they are selling that for foreign exchange And what are they doing with the foreign exchange? What exactly are they doing with it? How are they leveraging it?
They will use their foreign exchange to exercise leverage in the economy. Now remember, this transnational business organization, this transnational illicit business organization exploits every single avenue that is open to it. So it's not only illicit drugs. They move perfectly licit products like cigarettes, alcohol, as long as they can maximize wealth off of it. So you import it, you evade taxation, you offload it on the local economy. They are involved in counterfeit goods. They are involved in counterfeit pharmaceuticals.
Okay,
They involved in trafficking energy, crude oil. So your bank cards, attacks upon the financial sector, insurance scams, whatever. They are very, very sophisticated. It is not your ordinary old school transnational criminal organization. They are relentlessly seeking opportunities which are weak and underprotected and prone to attack, and they have the resources to then exploit this weakness. So an example of that is the amount of card skimming, credit card skimming, bank card skimming that they are involved in from the North Atlantic into the South. So for example, every single tourist destination in the Caribbean, they have migrated from Europe and from Latin America into these areas, simply targeting the credit cards and the bank cards of the tourists. That is the central planning involved in these transnational criminal organizations. They are centrally planned and driven.
all right.
So what?
Let me understand something here. Trinidad and Tobago is a transshipment destination for drugs. That drugs then goes to Europe or to North America. They gain the foreign exchange from that. They buy contraband whiskey and they buy contraband cigarettes and whatever else they can lay their hands on, and they bring it into the country and compete with existing business or makes alliances with existing business in order to earn an income. And they have these operations in which they are targeting weaknesses in the financial system and the
Yes.
operations of business in the society in order to exploit these things, which techniques that they have brought from abroad. Is that correct? Did I
Yes.
understand you correctly?
Yes. And it is all geared towards establishing leverage within the illicit economy.
All right. Okay.
Because you're not only maximizing the wealth generated in the North Atlantic and the new growth area, which is Asia, but you intend to maximize the wealth in your operational areas in the South, because that is how you transfer this wealth amongst your affiliates. Because what they do, you establish affiliates. So you have affiliates in Trinidad and Tobago, and these affiliates are now integrated into the organization, and there's a division of labor, and that is how the affiliates maximize their wealth locally.
Is the intention in participating in the local economy to also have partners and surrogates and collaborators in legitimate business?
Yes, those are the people who give them the illicit front. So they always seek and they will always integrate licit businesses into the structure. And one way to recruit is the Forex.
Yes,
So they
okay.
will offer you Forex. And then before you know it, you are under their thumb.
Okay. All right. I want to ask a couple of things. Where is the original sin, the transshipment of cocaine and other hard drug products? Where is that coming from into Trinidad and Tobago? And where is the customs, the Coast Guard, immigration, and so on in this? And secondly, what is the capability that they have here to make the Coast Guard, the customs, and the immigration irrelevant? And is there a Venezuelan connection?
The first thing we must understand, the plan is to turn Trinidad and Tobago into a apex transition point in the Southern Caribbean. Remember, Trinidad and Tobago, the economic activity in Trinidad and Tobago attracts any trafficking organization. All of the bulk carriers that come into Trinidad for loading and leave, etc. So you intend to make Trinidad and Tobago a premier export point of the Southern Caribbean. You also will diversify the illicit drugs that are moving through Trinidad and Tobago to go to the North Atlantic. So we have always had cocaine and heroin moving through Trinidad and Tobago. But what happens, they expand the drug mix. So then you start to get synthetic drugs added to that, methamphetamine, things like that, because they maximize a trafficking pipeline to generate wealth. So that is one thing. So you have various production points. The cocaine will come out of Colombia, it will transition through Venezuela, or it will come directly from Colombia to here. From here, you have various exit points. It will be going to the eastern seaboard of the United States, it will be going to Europe, and you have that will be going to Africa, which then goes to Europe. So that is the complexity. And then you have the movement from Trinidad and Tobago up the eastern Caribbean island chain to then jump off to go across, because they don't put all their eggs in one basket, because they practice a fail-safe methodology. So that if you cut off a limb, I have 10 other limbs in operation.
All right, but what are our customs, Coast Guard, and immigration and other law enforcement officials asleep?
No, what is happening to us is that the institutional barriers we have that is supposed to handle this threat, since we inherited from the British in 1962, we have yet to renovate it to answer to the evolving nature of the threats we face coming in externally to us internally. So customs in its present dimension just cannot handle the onslaught. Immigration the same way. The Coast Guard has serious problems with maintaining an adequate fleet in the water. And remember, these transnational organizations, the strategy is to corrupt institutions from within. That is the premier strategy, to corrupt from within.
And I suppose that can easily be done by money or foreign exchange.
Thank you.
All right. But what about the Coast Guard? I mean, they have about 14 boats. What is their situation?
But what is happening? What is happening there is that the movement has changed over time. We still continue to look across the Gulf of Paria and to line up our assets there to the west and to the south, looking because the trust is supposed to come from there. But the fact of the matter is, the pipelines are now so diverse. The largest single breach into Trinidad and Tobago now is containerized cargo.
Yeah.
That is the operational medium of the 21st century.
Okay. So really, it is the issue of customs then?
Yes. And it is time now to bring customs into the 21st century.
All right. Will this thing be solved by the revenue authority, which seeks to bring the tax body and the customs together? You think that can be solved that way, or you think they're missing the boat in not taking this issue into account at all?
The revenue authority continues to view customs as a revenue collector.
Yes.
What we need in Trinidad and Tobago is an immigration and customs enforcement agency.
Yes. I've made that point in Parliament before, only to be ignored, of course, that you cannot treat customs as simply revenue when one of their major involvements is, in fact, to manage the entry of goods into your port, and there's a law enforcement issue related to that. But, I mean, in this country, you talk, and it doesn't matter whether you make sense or you don't make sense.
No.
People will do what they want.
Customs is empowered with rights that not even the police have, as long as it deals with uncustoms goods. So that means the time has now come for us and immigration is the same thing with persons who have breached your borders illicitly. The person. So the time has now come to take that enforcement power of customs and that enforcement power of immigration and to combine them and weaponize them.
Now, let us go to the police force. Do you think that the situation with crime, as you describe here, is facilitated by not having a police commissioner appointed?
No. The operational capacity of the police service continues. Yes. What the major problem is what do you expect the TTPS to do on a daily basis? There is this preoccupation with militarized police in response to a so-called gangland threat. But since gangland went dead quiet in 2020, the message is the time is now upon us to change the focus of the TTPS from this old colonial policing method. And it's time now for us to undertake policing based on surveillance and preemption in light of the threat we face.
Yeah.
So everybody walking around in battle gear with an assault rifle on the chest is not responding adequately to the threat posed by this sophisticated transnational organized crime organization that is flowing in money.
Do you think
that has more money than Trinidad and Tobago in revenue in 5 years add up together?
All right. Do you think that that former Police Commissioner Griffith understood what was happening during his watch, given what you are describing here? You think he had an idea of what was going on?
He never indicated that idea on the ground. What he did when he was police commissioner is give you a extra heavy dose of militarized policing on steroids.
Yeah.
That is what it was.
And you don't think that that was appropriate given the nature of the problem? Is that what you're
Not
saying?
the threat we face.
Yes.
Maybe it was a response, a political response to what gangland was then. But what gangland is now, and then what about all the other aspects? What about the penetration of the fabric of society by transnational organized crime that is extra of gangland
Okay.
amongst the decent and respectable people?
Well, you know, what you are raising here are serious issues, and I want to explore it. I am sure what you are saying is going to be controversial, but that is okay. You are saying that the way international organized crime operates, they quickly corrupt the customs because they give them foreign exchange or they pay them money. They can also do that with immigration. They can also do that with the Coast Guard, for that matter. And without accusing or making allegations against anybody, what you are saying is that institutions become easily corruptible when you have this kind of multinational and transnational criminal activity and organization within your borders. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you are saying is that your business, legitimate businesses, become corrupt because in a situation of scarce foreign exchange, people need the foreign exchange to do business. And once they get the foreign exchange from an easy supplier, then partnerships build and businesses are compromised. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you are saying further that our whole strategy in policing is wrong because we are still in a strategy of policing that doesn't understand the sophistication of the gangs or their business operations, and we are still operating as if gangs are killing each other and committing crimes in the country on households and so on, when that is not the case. So what do we need in terms of a police organization and operation in the country?
Now, the first thing we have to understand and admit is that we have a history of compromising with the illicit trades since the second half of the 1960s in this country. So this new business model is not starting from scratch and building the ark. We already have this legacy that came from the Colombian model. So they are here and they already have a platform on which to build. So that is what we must understand. We have long been compromised. So what we must understand, this new business model don't believe in bribes. They believe in corrupting key state institutions from inside, from within. But what they do is that they turn key persons who are now part of their organization into traffickers, into earners. So it is no longer a case of, as under the Colombian model, you render services and I hand you a bribe. What we must understand is this vast difference. These people now bring you into the organization and you earn within the organization. You get integrated into the organization. So if you decide that you turn in your back on the organization, you're also implicating yourself.
Yeah. So it's a situation of co-optation and capture.
Thank you. It's not purchasing services with bribes.
Yes. Okay. All right. We are at a crisis situation with the police service in which we do not have a commissioner. And we have a police service commission which has collapsed. There are all kinds of feelings and thinking and perspectives on this. I won't go into that now. But I imagine eventually we're going to get the police service commission back in place. We will ignore the constitutional problems that we have had, which got us here. And eventually we're going to have a new commissioner. What is required of the police service now, if we get to the point where we have a new commissioner, to be able to begin to address this problem?
Well, the reality is, the question is, what is politically permissible for the TTPS to respond to?
All right, let me ask you this. You think politicians have been reached by this international criminal operations and compromised in this process? And by that I mean politicians in or out of government.
As long as you are a person who must be co-opted, the resources are expended to co-opt you. But what we know is that this present business model has an aversion to co-opting politicians because they are not investments that have adequate shelf life.
Yeah,
They go as they come.
Yeah, so it's not sustainable because you could
No.
lose election, right?
Yes, whereas a state official is there until she or he retires.
In other countries, I mean, how do the courts operate in relation to this? Would you like to say anything on that? I know I am treading on very delicate grounds here.
No, what is happening in the history in Trinidad and Tobago is that you have had few instances where any matter that will impact the illicit trades have arrived in a court of law.
Okay, so they just don't get there.
No, it just don't get there. And under this business model, this present business model, it's even worse.
Okay.
Because they have this very, very severe method of disciplining the ranks.
Yes. Okay. So would you say that we are likely to see criminal activity of the murderous kind, that is to say murders and so on, which are likely to be directly related to breaches of the code of conduct within a transnational criminal organization that demands absolute discipline?
Yes, those who compromise the organization, those who pose threats to the organization from within the illicit world will be dealt with.
Okay.
That is how it operates. Now, what we must understand, the discipline within this transnational organization is so rigid. When caught by the state, you plead guilty and you make your jail. There is no deal cutting.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to bring this to a close now, and I'm going to give you the last word on this. Is there anything that you would like to say in terms of adding value to what you have said that the general public should be aware of or be alert to or know or want to know? Could you share that with us, and we will close the conversation?
The threat to the very social order, the threat to the business community, the threat is now evolving and expanding in scope. And we now, as a people, must demand that the institutions that are there to protect our social order rapidly evolve to respond.
Okay.
The game can no longer continue. The game of stasis and inertia, it is not working.
All right.
That is my position.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Figuera, for being on our program this morning. And thank you for being so bold in your assessment and your pronouncement, and being so clear as well. We'll talk to you another time. This thing is certain to evolve, and new ideas are likely to emerge about what is happening in the society. So we'll talk to you another time. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, sir.
This morning.
Thank you.
All right. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari, your host of the show. And this is MCTV, Multicultural TV. We thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you another time. Thank you.